Hello everyone, welcome to Recapping Stories. Today we'll be checking a movie called Hellraiser. Warning, there will be spoilers. In a market in Morocco, a man buys a puzzle box from a mysterious seller. Sometime later, the buyer, Frank Cotton, attempts to solve the box in an attic filled with candles. A piece of the puzzle moves, indicating his progress along with the appearance of a strange light. Chains appear, hooking his flesh as he screams. Suddenly, the attic is filled with chains and a pillar where skulls and pieces of bodies can be seen. A creature with pins on his head appears and gathers the pieces of Frank's face before picking the box and rearranging it. The attic is left bare of any evidence of what just happened. Later, Frank's brother, Larry, and his wife, Julia, arrive at the house which Larry has inherited. Julia is shown to be less than excited about the idea of moving there. While walking around, Larry finds remains of rotten food, covered with maggots and cockroaches. Julia finds other signs that Frank has stayed in the house for a time, including some photos of his. Larry receives a call from his daughter, Kirsty. She tells him she found a room to stay in. Larry replies he thought she would stay with them for a while and tries to convince her to come see the house, but Kirsty can't visit so soon. She's trying to find a job first. He tries to dissuade her, claiming she already made the gesture. Kirsty replies this isn't a gesture, but something she needs to do. Both eventually hang up, looking upset. The moving day arrives with all of these joys. Kirsty arrives at a point to help and the men check her out as they did with Julia. Kirsty greets her father and their brief conversation implies she and Julia don't get along very much. After she leaves to make some coffee, one of the moving men comments she got her mother's looks. Larry replies that Kirsty's mother is dead. As Kirsty makes the coffee, Julia is looking at a photo of Frank before tearing the woman out of it, remembering the day she met Frank. Her recollection is interrupted when Kirsty asks for a towel. Julia, hiding the photo, points her to the bathroom and leaves Kirsty talking to herself, heading up to the attic to the girl's confusion. Alone again, Julia goes back to her memories, recalling an affair she had with Frank shortly before her wedding. Her sweet memories are interrupted when Larry comes into the attic, bleeding after cutting himself by accident one nail while trying to help move the bed upstairs. Neither of them notices the blood being absorbed by the floorboards, beneath which there is a heart beating. Julia, Kirsty, and Larry go to a hospital and don't hear the floorboards on the attic moving as something oozes from them. Bones emerge, forming arms and a spine that attaches itself to a growing head. The reborn creature lets out a scream. We cut to a housewarming party, with Larry and his friends laughing and talking about the incident of earlier. Julia doesn't seem to be quite enjoying the dinner and excuses herself but hears strange noises as she goes upstairs. Deciding to investigate, she follows the noise to the attic, where rats are feasting on something. A skeletal hand grabs her ankle, and when she tries to escape, the creature closes the door and reveals its identity. It's Frank. He tells her the blood on the floor brought him back and begs for her help as he needs more blood. Kirsty comes up to wash her face for a moment and sees Julia, briefly telling her good night before leaving, though the woman's silence apparently bothers her. Frank watches the scene, staying out of sight. After the party, Kirsty and her boyfriend, Steve, talk about Julia. For a moment, Kirsty stops, noticing a homeless man staring at her, but she chooses to ignore him. Unable to sleep that night, Julia keeps recalling her affair and eventually heads to the empty room, having decided to help Frank. At the same time, Kirsty has a strange dream. She's standing in a room with plumes falling around, hearing a baby crying. In the center of the room there is an altar, covered by a white cloth with growing blood stains. She pulls the cloth, revealing a corpse that looks like her father. Her boyfriend wakes her and, unable to ignore the dream, Kirsty calls Larry. Regardless of their conversation on the phone earlier on, it's clear they care dearly for each other. After Larry assures Kirsty that he's alright, he returns to his room, not noticing Frank on the stairs above, whispering his niece's name. The next day, Julia goes to a bar where a man hits on her. Having found her prey, she takes him home and to the attic for some adult fun. Although initially nervous, Julia hits him with a hammer until he kicks the bucket. While Frank feeds on the man, she goes to wash the blood off her arms and face, staring at her reflection as she does so. Although the Cenobites are sadistic demons, Julia and Frank are the main villains, and also demons in their own way. Julia returns after cleaning herself from the blood, finding Frank healed to an extent. He tells her to come close, but Julia is still disturbed by his appearance. Larry's arrival ruins the moment, so she has to hide their victim's body. Frank tells her they still need one or two more, and it must be done quickly as the Cenobites will soon realize he has escaped. Hearing Larry talking to Julia, he mocks his brother and reminds Julia that they belong to each other now. Julia is less disgusted with his current form after his words, even growing aroused. Working at a pet shop, Kirsty is dealing with an unhappy client when she notices the homeless man from before. She finds him grabbing and eating some bugs. Disturbed, she tells him to get out. Before leaving, the man stares intensely at her. Julia finds more victims for Frank. In a shot, her expression slowly changes. She seems to be growing used to the violence, and possibly even starting to enjoy it as well. Eventually, she inquires Frank about what left him in this state, and her lover shows her the puzzle box from before, explaining that it can open doors. In his search for the ultimate pleasures, he found it and summoned the Cenobites. The creature's notion of pleasure, however, is not quite what most people would want, and Frank was tortured with the streams of both pain and pleasure. He understandably doesn't want to be caught by the Cenobites again. Julia promises him that they will run away together and never be found. Later that night, Frank yells during a storm. Hearing the noise, Larry goes to investigate it, despite Julia's attempts to distract him. The attic is empty when Larry checks it, and he doesn't notice the rats nailed to the walls. Still in the mood, he takes Julia to the bedroom, but she doesn't seem very happy with her husband's attention. Frank, watching them from a closet, comes behind Larry while removing the skin of a rat in a silent threat. Disgusted, Julie stops the act, confused and not knowing what's going on with his wife. Larry has dinner with Kirsty when he talks about his marital problems, asking his daughter to drop by sometime, as perhaps Julia just needs someone to talk to. Having agreed to try, Kirsty comes to the house on the next day, in time to see Julia bringing a man inside. She goes to investigate as Julia tries to incapacitate the man, but fails this time. When Frank gets him, she decides to not watch the process and hides upon seeing Kirsty coming upstairs. The man, disfigured and nearly dead, gets out of the room and begs Kirsty for help. At the last moment, Frank finishes him off and grabs Kirsty, throwing her inside the room. Horrified by the sight of him and his attentions, she tries to defend herself and gets the puzzle box. Noticing how Frank suddenly becomes nervous, she takes the chance to throw the object out of the window, distracting him long enough for her to escape. As she runs out of the house, Kirsty grabs the box. The shock of everything gets to her, and she eventually faints on the street. When Kirsty comes to, she is in a hospital. The doctor isn't quite helpful, ignoring her desire to call her father and pointing out the police will want to talk to her, likely because she had some blood on her when she fainted. Left alone, nothing else to do, Kirsty inspects the box. Upon moving a piece, she gets curious and tries to solve it. The walls in the room open, revealing a tunnel. Confused, Kirsty enters it, hearing the same baby cries she heard in her dream. However, this turns out to be a bad idea, as a monster, the engineer, chases her. Kirsty escapes and tries to close the puzzle box, but it's too late. A Cenobite, Shatterer, appears and walks to her, placing his fingers inside her mouth and holding her by the neck. Other Cenobites, Pinhead, Butterball, and the female Cenobite, also appear. Pinhead informs her that the box is a means to summon them, and having opened it, she must commit them. Kirsty realizes they have done this before and inquires about Frank, denouncing he has escaped them. Although the Cenobites don't believe her at first, With the female Cenobites suggesting they might prefer Kirsty, the girl proposes a deal. She'll lead them to Frank in exchange for being spared. Pinhead says that he wants to hear Frank confessing himself, and then maybe they'll let her go. He warns Kirsty that if she tries to cheat them, they'll tear her soul apart. Back at Larry's home, Julia is worried that Kirsty will tell people what she witnessed, but Frank isn't so worried, as Kirsty is likely to want to warn Larry first. Either way, all he cares about is getting a new skin. Larry arrives at home, unaware of the danger he's in when Julia welcomes him, appearing serious and claiming she needs to tell him something, but it'd be better if she shows him. Meanwhile, Stevie goes to the hospital, yet Kirsty is already gone. At the house, Larry comes down the stairs, flexing his fingers. He caresses Julia's face, leaving blood marks on her skin, and they make love in a way that resembles the time when Julia was with Frank. Kirsty hurries to the house, wanting to see her father. She hugs him in relief and tries to tell him about Frank, but Larry and Julia claim that Frank is already gone. Larry has killed him. Kirsty still wishes to see the body. After she goes upstairs, Larry turns to the mirror, adjusts the skin under one of his eyes, which are now of a different color, further indicating that Frank has killed Larry and stole his skin. Julia closes the attic door, leaving Kirsty alone with the corpse. The Cenobites appear and, aware that this body is not Frank's, claim to want the man who did that. Still thinking that Frank is Larry, Kirsty protests that this wasn't the agreement. She runs out of the room trying to warn the couple that they have to leave. Not knowing what she's talking about, Frank insists that everything is alright now, and they can all live in the house together. His mannerisms making Kirsty realize what happened. When Frank tries to make another sexual advance on her, Kirsty scratches his face, ruining his new skin. Julia holds her as Frank, furious, goes for the kill. Kirsty frees herself at the last minute, making him stab Julia by accident. Not that Frank minds it very much. Unable to get out of the house, both due to Frank and the threat of the Cenobites, Kirsty goes upstairs and tries to hide in a storage room when Frank comes after her. She discovers the maggot-covered corpse of a previous victim of the duel and nearly screams. Once she leaves the room, the events prove to be too much, and Kirsty starts to cry. Cornered by Frank, she returns to the attic, stumbling on her father's corpse. Frank says his brother was dead before he got to him, but that everything is alright as Uncle Frank is there now. This is enough of a confession of his real identity for the Cenobites, and they come to reclaim their prey. Pinhead tells Kirsty that this isn't for her eyes, making Frank realize that she worked with them. Chains pierce his body before he can stab her. Despite the pain, he smiles before being torn apart. Kirsty tries to leave, but the Cenobites have other ideas. Trying to escape the female Cenobite, she goes into Larry and Julia's room, where she finds Julia's corpse with the puzzle box in her hands. Pinhead appears behind her, claiming they have such signs to show her. Grabbing the box, Kirsty starts to close it, sending the Cenobites away, telling Pinhead to go to hell. The house starts to fall apart around her. Steve, not knowing what's going on, barges in search for his girlfriend. Kirsty sends Shatterer to hell and reunites with Steve. Butterball nearly kills the boy, but parts of the house fall on him. When they're about to leave, Kirsty recognizes the current shape of the box, meaning the engineer is coming. For just a moment, it appears she is mistaken, right before the demon emerges from the darkness. Both try to get the box, and Steve smashes an empty bottle against the engineer's head, but it doesn't help much. Finally, Kirsty gets the box and sends the engineer back to hell. Kirsty and Steve go to a garbage dump, where she throws the box in one of the fires, hoping to destroy it. The homeless man from before appears and takes the box, unbothered by the flames even as they engulf him, then turning into a skeletal bird-like creature and flying away. The next scene shows the box being sold to someone else, in a similar way it was sold to Frank.